Hi, and welcome to this reading of The Great Cosmic Mother by Monica Saju and Barbara Moore. We'll undertake this work in a series of 52 weeks, representing a year, representing the seasons and the shifts of the feminine, along with the gestation of this book and the gestation of its teachings within our lives. I'm Lindsay Burke, and I'll be leading this journey along with some trusted other souls to read this work and help enshrine it in current consciousness. And I want to also recognize the epic work done by Cassandra Faye Floyd and her readings and commentary of the Great Cosmic Mother, which is an enduring piece of work that I highly encourage everyone use as another way to study this book with incredible depth. So, preface, wheel life. This book is a wheel, she began. It begins and ends with the word beginning. Like a year, it has 4 parts, 52 chapters, 4 seasons, 52 weeks, and 13 lunations, though not symmetric. A she wheel, it unrolls her story, a description of the female journey through our human time on Earth. Hero circles of great myth and small data, poetry and numbers, dream and invention, ice and fire, Cro-Magnon caves, and inquisitional burnings, night and day, her silent presence, and his noisy history. And this new edition appears now in 1991, 9, the magic number of muses, crones, and that first mytho, menstrual, mathematically observed wheel, the moon. 1, which we are and must become. Wheels within wheels within wheels, cellular, personal, local, global, cosmic, and begin again. This is not planned, it just happens. As the world turns, as witches spin, and what disappears in that telescope reappears in the microscope, and vice versa. It seems to be organic. I ride a bicycle, a 3-speed Schwinn, green with food gathering baskets, solidly built but in need of total overhaul. For 15 years, it's been my sole transportation, besides feet, in my Irish mood. A wheel is a vehicle, a mood, a mode of distraction. My bike wheels are not precisely round. Warped rims, threadbare tires, badly braked, punctured seasonally by goat heads and broken glass. Asymmetric, bumpy. My ride through life wobbles, but it moves, it works. It renews itself, strange, Ouroboros wheels stubbornly to get the job done. The revolving bumps underline the rhythmic weirdness of the weather I must roll through, planetary and personal. This earth, too, has its wobble. As in winter, in the huge wobble of the Ice Age, humanity evolved itself. So most of this book's work done in unlikely winter. It was December 1976 when World Woman Spirit magazine, for whom I read poetry, sent me Monica's pamphlet, mimeographed earlier that year in England. I lived on welfare in northern New Mexico with my son and daughter. And weekly, I biked 25 to 50 miles round trip to Taos, through wind, sage, dust, mud, lightning, and snow, for food, supplies, and mail. Our adobe house on a Spanish farm was heated by pinon wood and an old cast iron kitchen stove. And I rode at a wheel table, a wooden spool once used to wind electric cable. Working through winter, I doubled Monica's 100 pages, rewrote, restructured, added new materials, sections, and titles. Woman Spirit could not print this enlargement. And 4 years later, in 1981, it was published by Rainbow Press in Norway and distributed in America by Woman Spirit. True to its winter nature, this book lay long dormant, vital under snow. Winter again, 1984. Monica made contact with Harper and Row editor at the 1984 International Women's Book Fair in London. With this go signal, I began writing the present book. Still in Taos, still on a bicycle, but the gears of welfare existence were grinding harder. Rent, food, utilities had doubled, but benefits under Reagan were frozen. And so were we. Taos is 7,000 feet in the southern Rockies with ground snow through winter, temperatures of negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit on the deepest nights. I could afford to burn wood only 2 to 3 hours of each evening. In daytime, the kitchen thermometer read 38 to 40 degrees from December through March. And through these months, I wrote 8 hours daily, sometimes wearing a down jacket, but the bulk impeded typing. Using material and notes from earlier writing and workshops I'd done in San Diego on women's religion, witchcraft, global politics, I expanded the 80 printed pages of the Rainbow Press edition into the present book. Nightly, we huddled together, 2 daughters and I, in sleeping bags on the living room floor, sandwiched by blankets, dogs, and cats, ancient creatures in our cave. Bedrooms were cold storage. From the window of my youngest daughter's room, a foot-long icicle, 4 inches wide, crawled inside and down the wall. Our personal microcosmic glaciation. It didn't begin to melt until mid-March. So it be. Winter is the time of our content. In the Mule Mountains of southern Arizona, winter 1985, there was much cold occult work to be done on the manuscript before it could be printed. Text corrections and documentation, footnotes, bibliography, permissions, illustration selection and placement. I worked at the wheel table, 5,500 feet, no heat. The next winter, 1986, I proofed the galleys twice, sitting at the big table in the dark kitchen in a downtown barrio, the house of Tlazacotl, Mexican witch goddess. Still no heat, so no hot water, but by then I was in Tucson, where even winter is warm. A wheel is also a torture instrument, where witches were bound for punishment. With my half of the advance, I left welfare. Publication was then delayed a year until May 1987 to complete the manuscript and production. Then the first year of the royalties was in the minus column until the advance and the author's share of publication costs were repaid. Meanwhile, I had no money. My daughters went to live with their brother and his wife in Albuquerque. Into their basement storage went my belongings: bike, books, notes, typewriter. And I became a bag lady on the streets of Tucson. For 13 months, off and on. I was one of those statistics: no job, no income, no home. All the heat I'd not had during the icy months of writing curved in to hit me in the face. Intense, 100-degree plus calor of a desert city's brick oven streets from May through October. Windless, or the wind blew relentlessly electric, like a laundromat of fire dryers. I was on foot, age 51. I carried big purple drawstring bag full of my life, not much. Parked cars, boarded up houses, barrio porches and backyards, garages used as shooting galleries, booth of 24-hour restaurants. This is where I slept. Nighttime helicopter surveillance and police raids entered my real dreams. Also solicitations for sex, threats of beatings and death, abandonment to nocturnal streets, or the militant mercies of charity shelters. Days I hung out in the parks, plazas, courthouses, and libraries. City fountains were multiple: to bathe, wash clothes, cool off. Then you collect the coins. In air-conditioned oases, Burger King, Carl Jr., 59-cent brought endless coffee refills and free newspapers. Public restrooms I also used for laundry and personal hygiene. I underwent malnutrition, began menopause, learned survival from my street partner. On the litmus paper of my own flesh, I kept notes of my experience. In my bag, I carried a 9-page resume, 20 odd years of feminist and literary activity, including this just published book. I applied for editorial work at the University of Arizona Press, university library work, and open seat on the Tucson Women's Commission. No one could use me except a bankrupting downtown motel, later closed by the city. Homeless people were channeled there by charity agencies to do maid work and maintenance. We labored 10 hours daily, 6 days a week, struggled up and down in one defective elevator, 4 floors, lugging one semi-functioning vacuum cleaner, running out of everything else. Our laundry room floor, strewn with the dirty sheets and towels, kept flooding with the backflow from the pool. The young manager, son of the owner, quietly partied in a 4th-floor suite. Cleaning it, I observed. He was reading Donald Trump's The Art of the Deal. When my first paycheck bounced, I quit. For my fall into the street, I had no explanatory bad habits except poetry to win sympathy from social agencies. I don't drink, smoke, use dope, seem officially crazy or criminal. Simply, I wrote a good book, left welfare, and hit the skids. This wheel is surreal. And it continues turning. My personal events are tiny wobbles amidst huge cyclings. Global wheels revolve vast, familiar changes. Modes of world control shift back and forth from terror to seduction. Icy political walls fall. Hot markets erupt. War gods retract oiled missiles. Money gods open shopping malls. Overnight, they reverse. Peace is bulldozed for a new battle zone. Universal freedom to buy, they say, means individual freedom to be. Then the money disappears, chaos and tyranny, extinct all rights, needs, and dreams beyond a price tag or a gun. Inside these manufactured wheels, final gears grind, earth depletion, pollution, trash. Our planet of biologic farms, vernally redefined as functions of a thing-producing machinery. Forests, elephants, ozone, disappearing. Healthy soil, air, water, all depleting. Human place and integrity are endangered species, and they won't appear again on this wheel. For women, it's a counterspin. Markets are freed, businesses deregulated, but state and technological control over reproduction increases. Female bodies are used lavishly to sell goods. We still don't own our own wombs. We freely enter careers and are beaten, raped, and killed just as freely. Successful women proliferate, and so do the numbers of malnourished, poor, sick, and homeless women and our planet's children. A wheel is direction's energy, also a steering device, a will. Among circling and exploding stars, how do we dare to live? I look in my cracked mirror. Personal is political, is cosmic. With the great cosmic mother, I've made a journey of creative female endurance. This book, readers say, gives us back our herstory. Women's creation of human culture, our epic struggle to imaginatively survive and transform the world to which we gave birth. Our collective story amazes, enrages, and energizes us. Individual lives are illuminated and empowered by it. Women and men are returned to themselves. My small epos, the book's writing and after, underscores, I hope, this theme. Female spirit, the goddess in us, is not fragile or new, not an invention of privileged women or an escapist New Age elite. We are tough and ancient, tried by a million years of ice and fire. On enormous and minute wheels of pain and beauty, we have turned. The spinning wheels of witches transmute our experience into worlds, dream into real, need into art, difficult fact into daily vision. Skilled in memory, muscled by quantum leaps, we return to tell and respell our story. Sometimes uphill, against odds and harsh winds, my metaphoric saga is every woman's. Knowledge of our truly revolutionary past can resolve our present dilemmas. Daughters of earth, all this whirling past is in us, of us. We are powered by experience. Now we can create and consecrate our globe's next turn, the magic future. Nothing is easy. Work we thought done must be redone. Generations of richly cynical young people need our cronish views and mythic tools. Communal action is a large wheel. Within it, each personal will must passionately spin to face hardship, anonymous conditions, to forego, disbelieve, apparent access, success, to defiantly redefine and redo the real work. Sacred, practical retrieval of the female earth, a transfusion of our spiritual reality into the body politic, economic, is not easy. My experience is revelatory. I could change God's sex. I couldn't pay my rent. I could rewrite history. I can't afford to eat. I survive, but with a grimmer face, a stronger and more ancient face. Our stubborn struggle, too, is organic. Earth alone amongst known planets wills life repeatedly from her own winter, travels, tough bag lady, through conscious days and nights of her own orbit, bombarded by meteors, doubts, the terrific noise of time and human traffic. She is solitary and 5 billion years old. All of us together, each of us brief and alone, travel with her. Her survival is ours. This wheel is a book she began and again, and let it roll. Barbara Moore, October 1990. Introduction. The great mother in her many aspects, maiden, raging warrior, benevolent mother, death dealing, and all wise crone, unknowable and ultimately weird, is now powerfully reemerging and rising again in human consciousness as we approach the 21st century. Isis, Maulisa, Demeter, Gaia, Shakti, Dakinis, Shekinah, Astarte, Ishtar, Rhea, Freya, Nefertas, Brigid, Danu. Call her what you may, has been with us from the beginning and awaits us now. She is the beauty of the green earth, the life-giving waters, the consuming fire, the radiant moon, and the fiery sun. She is star goddess and spider woman. She weaves the luminous webs that creates the universe. As Earth, the great planetary spirit being, she germinates life within her dark womb. After thousands of years of life-defying anti-evolutionary patriarchal structures that have been raped, ravaged, polluted the Earth, she returns. The Earth's immune system is breaking down, and so is ours. Her soil, atmosphere, plant life, trees, and animal worlds are exhausted beyond endurance. All beings are suffering and can take no more. Based in matricide, the death of all nature, and the utter exploitation of women, Western culture has now run itself into the ground, and there is no other way to return to the mother who gives us life. If we are to survive, we have to attune yet again to the spirits of nature, and we must hear the voices of the ancestors who speak to us from their otherworld realms. There is a growing feminization of poverty worldwide, especially in the third world, and more truly of the first world, where women's livelihoods and lands are being taken from them, much thanks to the Western US imperialism and so-called development schemes of women. In the Western world, the assault on women's last remnants of autonomous powers, the destruction of our ancient knowledge of healing and magical technology that enhanced our psychic powers as well as fertility in the land, came about with the witch hunts that lasted more than 300 years. In Europe, it has taken women until now to even dare to think of our own thoughts and articulate them, to dream our own dreams. We are the wise women returning at this dangerous hour, because women worldwide were always the guardians of the living earth, as we are all the surviving nature, tribal, shamanistic peoples who still commune with the spirits. I was involved with the anarchist and anti-Vietnam War movements in Sweden in the 1960s. I've also been active in the women's movement in Britain since the beginning. My political activism always grew out of my spiritual understanding of the earth as the living mother, because the goddess is injured wherever there is injustice, wanton cruelty, poverty, and pollution. Of course, the goddess is not just benevolent and fertile. She is also death-dealing and the destroyer. But these are natural forces, neither good nor bad in the impersonal universal dance. But when I am speaking of here is the destruction brought about by the selfish, despotic patriarchs and male brotherhoods who hate organic life in itself and desire to become disembodied, thereby returning to an abstract and impossible father who desires sterile death and no rebirth for us all. I do not believe that it is biologically given in men to be violent and destructive. There would never have been peaceful maternal cultures, such as we explore in this book, if this were so. I am primarily an artist, a creator of visionary images, so I felt an urgent need to communicate through writing. The reason I originally wrote this pamphlet about the ancient goddess in 1975, titled The Ancient Religion of the Great Cosmic Mother of All, and run off on stencils, was because I needed to clarify to myself and others where my images came from. By then, I had created many goddess paintings. My early images had a strange, archaic quality about them, as if they came from another time and space. At the time, I felt utterly alone in my book and what I was attempting to express. God giving birth is a sacred painting in which I wanted to holistically express my growing religious belief in the Great Mother as the cosmic spirit and generative force to the universe. To my utter amazement, it nearly brought me to court over the years for obscenity and blasphemy. The inspiration for this painting was the natural home birth of my second son in 1961, now 29 years ago, which felt me to make the first initiation of the Great Mother and open me to her visions and dreams. I always experience my art as what can only be described as a shamanic process, entering into a state of being or mind where knowledge is available from past, present, and future. This way of knowing belongs to the lunar mother, who is both dark and light. She and the dark nights and the inner radiant light, like that of the moon, who gives us dreams and illuminations. No surprise, perhaps, that many of my images appear to be moonlit, and that I've been sorely tested by the dark light mother who has taken back to herself two of my beloved sons. My youngest son, part Afro-American and Swedish, who was down and killed in front of my eyes in the Basque Country of the south of France. My oldest son died from lymphoma cancer in July of 1987. My new journey began through grief and numbing pain, truly a darkness of my soul during which I didn't want to live, and at times hated everything alive. I had come through this still loving this beautiful earth, our mother. I have now returned to painting and writing, exhibiting and traveling. It gave me hope to watch the courage and the loving energy of my oldest son radiated before his death in spite of his pain and illness. My sons communicate with me in dreams. I've exhibited with other goddess artists in Britain, Germany, and Scandinavia. Most recently, I took part in 2 exhibitions: The Goddess Reemerging in Glastonbury, September 1989, with Chris Castle, and Stones and the Goddess in Berkeley, May 1990. Everywhere I've traveled, I've also given slideshow talks about my art and life, ancient cultures, the goddess, and her sacred sites. I live in Bristol, a city in the southwest of England, not far from Glastonbury and Avebury, ancient sacred places of the Neolithic Mother. Glastonbury Tor, or the Isle of Avalon, is a three-dimensional labyrinth with an indwelling goddess. With Bloodwell Chalice Well in the skirts, it's an otherworld place of death and magical rebirths. Silbury Mound, the pregnant womb of the earth, along with the Avebury Stone Circle and West Cannet Long Barrow, abode of the Dark Mother, is the most sacred and magically powerful goddess site in the Northern Hemisphere. It was here I had a transformative experience in an altered state in 1978 that utterly changed my life and work. It was on Silbury that also for the first time, I truly knew that the earth is her living body. I also felt her grief and pain, her love and rage. It was this experience that tore me apart. It also gave me joy, and I had to leave the city. I went to live in Pembrokeshire, in the ancient Welsh countryside, where there are so many remains of Neolithic and Celtic past, so many holy wells, standing stones, and sacred trees. Here I learned to grow a garden, to live with the seasons, to follow the moon and her changes. I have journeyed like a pilgrim in the British Isles, in Ireland, in the Scottish Highlands, and the islands of so many numerous sacred sites. I have followed the trails of the Celts back to their sacred places in Germany and have visited Carnac in Britannia. I have had powerful experience in Newgrange and the Boyne Valley in Ireland and at Callanish Stone Circle in the Lewis in the Outer Hebrides. The stone circles, wells, and mounds are trance-inducing places, window areas into their other realities, where the voices of the ancestors, the blessed dead, the shining ones, or the fairies speak to us in visions, in dreams, giving healing and prophecy from the magical otherworld realms of the Mother. The great cosmic Mother is a central part of this reemergence of the Mother and of another far more ancient conscious intelligence. We are pioneers in this great movement, along with many other writers, artists, poets, and thinkers, that will all have to succeed or we will die. I want to make it clear that Barbara Moore is the book's main author. The reason for this is that when the time came to rework and extend our original work, my youngest son has just been killed, and I had moved back to Bristol to live with my other son who is suffering from cancer. I was unable to work on the book, and at that point, I even feared it. Barbara Moore, poet, scholar, and word magician, had to spend months writing, researching, and vastly extending the book from our earlier and more collaborative, The Ancient Religion of the Great Cosmic Mother of All, published in 1981 by Rainbow Press in Norway. That version, in turn, was reworked out by both of us over several years from the original pamphlet that had been written and conceived by me in 1975. Our book has indeed been a very long labor of love and has gone through many transformations along the way. I want to thank Jean and Ruth Mountain Grove of the former Oregon Women's Spirit Journal, who brought me and Barbara Moore together originally, and for the support that they gave. They also distributed the Rainbow Press version in the United States. I also want to thank Jan Wildhelm of Rainbow Press in Trondheim for having the vision and courage to publish our book in English, bringing a small alternative publisher without a great international distribution network. This was indeed a gamble. I also want to thank Gisela Ottmer and Rosemarie Merkel from Braunschweig in Germany, who were inspired by the Women Magic Celebrating the Goddess Within Us collective exhibition when I was traveling in Europe during the early 1980s, and took it upon themselves to translate and publish our book in German. Werke der Gatten, Return of the Goddess, was published in 1985 by their New Labyrinth Press. Blessed be. Monica Sujou, July 1990.